Hello, and welcome back to another exciting home office episode of Byte Size Moments with AJ. Today I'm going to be talking about one of my favorite things to rant about, which is traffic spikes. So when you're looking at your analytics regularly, sometimes you'll see these huge spikes in traffic. And I know when I was just getting started, I would get super excited because, hey, where are these huge spikes in traffic coming from? We did something and it worked. Happy day. And then you would go in there and you would dig around. You couldn't find a real reason for it, and you ended up going to your referral source. And in there you saw that in a single day you had 400 hits from this random domain that ended in like .xyz. Something weird like that. So what did you do? What did I do? Well, I went and I put that domain into an incognito browser window and tried to see what it was. And it wasn't anything important. It was an ad-laden website. So what was it? What caused those spikes? Those spikes are caused by spammers. Sorry to tell you this. So the purpose behind these types of spam attacks are to get you to go to that person's website. However, depending on the type of spam attack it is, it can cause some issues for you that we'll go over in a minute. So not only do they throw off your data, they throw off your conversion rate, they throw off all this stuff, but if you're running if you're running ads on your site, they can also throw off the number of impressions that your ads receive. And even sometimes they will throw off clicks and things because they do basic tasks. In addition, they can also be bots that crawl your website to scrape data, whether it is to steal email addresses off the website, to just steal content, to grab pictures. There's a couple different things for them. The two most common types are spam related, though, for that getting that referral source into your analytics so that you go and visit that website. The two different types for that are ghost spam and refer spam. So ghost spam is actually the friendlier of the two, and it's the one that requires less work. They ping your Google Analytics without ever visiting your site. So it's annoying in your data, but it's not really going to do anything other than throw off your data. Refer spam is more dangerous because it can overwhelm your site. So if you've ever heard of a DDoS attack, it can have the same effects where it overwhelms your site. It tasks the resources that go into keeping it up because your website lives on a computer somewhere and it has a CPU and everything else to worry about. And so it overtasks that server and causes your site to slow down. Sometimes it causes it to shut down, and they can be a huge problem. However, that type of spam is harder to do, and so it is less common. The ghost spam is the one that ends up popping up the most for people. So wow, the autofocus is bad today. What can you do about it? One, you can, for the dangerous type of spam, you should talk to your hosting company, or whoever manages your website, and ask them about putting blocks into the htaccess and robots.txt file to kind of try to reduce that. They're not going to be able to catch all of it. However, that is a good first step. And there are a lot of hosting providers that actually build a lot of that in. For instance, WP Engine is one of them, higher tier hosting. Your GoDaddies and HostGator aren't going to be as useful there. But if you're on kind of a CMS-centric hosting, whether that is for WordPress, Drupal, Joomla, any of those, if it's a specific hosting that's built for that, a lot of them do have that built in. The other thing you can do is on your, also on your hosting, you can put rate limiters in it. So anytime that it sees that there's a lot of traffic coming from one IP address or one source, it will shut it down. So if it's oh, you got 100 hits in a minute, it'll shut that down, which can help a lot with that. On the analytics side, you can use filters to keep that data from happening. So it used to be that you had to filter everything out manually and you had to put in rules using regex, which would try to track all of these different websites that were doing this and try to filter them out so that they didn't impact your data. Now it's a little easier. So that still is useful to have that in mind. Like if you're seeing something that slips through, you can use that to shore up other ways, but you can also use what is called the valid host name filter to make sure that only valid host names are getting through to your website, and that helps shut a lot of them down. However, that doesn't really make up for the fact that you now have this huge spike in traffic that you have to deal with. This is where segments are going to come in handy. The same thing that you apply to your filters, you can actually set up in a segment. So filters are more permanent filters on your data that will remove that data from the data set moving forward. Segments recognize that there's different parts of your data that you want to look at segmented and allows you to filter the data but not remove it. So we can't remove those bot traffic hits from the data once it's there. However, you can look at it through a segmented view. So in which case you would just go in, you would put in the name of the refer that the bot was coming in on, and you would look at your traffic with that removed. It is a pain in the butt though, so you do want to do what you can to prevent it. Now, if you're responsible to someone for reporting all of this, and like, let's say your marketing director is like, hey, we had this huge spike in traffic, that's great, what happened? And you're like, well, it was a bot. A lot of times they don't like to hear that. So it is really good to be able to show them the proof of that, be able to point out, screenshot the site that it goes to. But you want to make a note of that for moving forward, because what's going to happen is, let's say you do a month-to-month comparison and you're like, yeah, it looks like we dropped traffic 25% in February from January. Well, no, you had a spike in traffic that was caused by these spam bots. And so you want to make sure that you have a note of that in your data and that you're using that segmented view for pulling that comparison data as well. It is a pain in the butt, I know. Yeah, and that is really all there is about those traffic spikes. It's something I get a lot of questions about from customers, because a lot of times they'll see their reports and they'll see things like that, or I'll have a note about like, this is bot traffic, please disregard, or it's getting more clever sometimes. I do miss it because they use what sounds like a really solid name for the industry, and I don't necessarily go check it out even. So yeah, these things happen. One thing to keep in mind, make sure if you do want to go check out what one of these websites are to see if it's legitimate or not, use a private browsing window, and use a private browsing window on your phone. Your phone's less likely to get a virus. So sometimes there can be malware attached to those things, and it's a way to get in on your computer to steal data. So just be careful when you're investigating them. Also, if you just put like what's up with and then the domain name into Google, like it won't go to the website, and you can kind of see if other people have reported it or are talking about it, and see the context. So that's another tip for trying to discover what happened. Yeah, and this is just a fun little blip that happens with analytics. If you are interested in analytics, we do have a course up on the Academy that I teach. It's Google Analytics for Beginners, and then in the coming months there will be a more advanced Google Analytics class coming out that really digs into how to run reports and things. The Google Analytics for Beginners one really just covers like a tour, the vocabulary you need to know, and shows you some basic reports so you can get started using it and know what you're looking at. But also Google Analytics is in the process of switching over from one version to another, and so we are also looking at doing a class for the new Google Analytics, which is exciting. I'm learning a lot. So yeah, thanks for joining me, and I hope you have a great day. All right, bye.